Pearl, in person and on Zoom. It's wonderful to see all of you there. This is a Giving Tuesday, which is it's kind of a commercial-ish dedication, but I figure we might as well fold it into our appreciation for everything that this day has brought forth. This is the first full day of our full Rohatsu Sesshin, which we are doing residentially. There are a number of us who are staying here overnight, and then the rest of you coming in during the day. And it really makes a difference, this full-on effort where we just stay put. Don't divide our, our energies. Don't get into the car. So I'd like to bring home something very simple in this talk. We usually talk about why we do Sesshin before Sesshin. That's really the effort, is to fluff up the enthusiasm and get people saying, "Yeah, I'll come." And I thought it'd be really great to start this. Well, it's 3 talks I'm going to be giving on the fascicle by Dogen, entitled One Bright Pearl. So I'm going to give 3 talks, and this first one is going to be primarily about why we are doing Sesshin. Since that's on the first day, it's very often the question that we ask ourselves, why did I sign up for this? First day is so difficult. It's so difficult. Why do we do Sesshin? Why do we urge doing a long Sesshin? We primarily have been doing 3 and 4 day Sesshins, which give us a chance to experience the most difficult part of Sesshin, and to kind of miss out on the time when the body and mind is really calmed down. And we get in touch with what is very natural. Very natural. Our natural mind and heart has a chance to calm down and relax. And then it's not hard, it can be a joy. In some weird way, even in Sesshins that are hard all the way through. I've certainly had my share of those. Some of you have too, probably. It's very important to see a Sesshin through, when you make a commitment to see it through. It's one of these things that's stressed in practice is great determination, steady effort. And the reward is we find we become more and more confident in our own ability to manage a human existence, which is very challenging. Very challenging to have so much consciousness, to have so many choices. We could, in the traditional hell realm, they should have added the hell realm of choices, because it complicates so much and brings in all of our tendency to be very ambivalent because we can imagine the worst case, the best case. Our greed can get all stirred up. Our inner critic gets all stirred up. All of the choices, all of these are consequences of having choices. But that's one of the things in the sesshin. We have a schedule which drives the sesshin and narrows choice, which initially is one of the things that's so difficult at the outset of the sesshin. But it's also something that allows us to really relax into it after a while. This sesshin seems to have, everybody is pretty mature in their practice, and so the settling has happened seemingly kind of quickly. It's very difficult to sit a sesshin, and it takes courage to face ourselves, to have nothing to distract from all the inner voices, all the pressures for such a consistent, long effort that we have laid out. We know where we are on this mountain path, and we're just starting up. We're following a long tradition of ancestors who spent much lives in deep practice and much retreat, often in a whole lot more quiet world. So one of the things that we're challenged with is this transition from the incessant bombardment of voices, human voices and images. We speed along at 60 and 70 miles an hour. It's painful to stop. It's scary to stop. But longer retreat, and 7 days is not even that long, really, is an essential practice. It's essential. And we are now finding a way to include it here a couple of times a year. We're going to have a 7-day, and then a couple of 4-dayers, and I won't go into the schedule, but it's really essential to do these long retreats. And if I think back on my practice through the years, what comes to mind in my dim memories, my memory that's getting even dimmer, is the long retreats and the kind of genuine, intimate aliveness that really comes forth in a setting like this, with others with whom we are so intimate, even if we don't know each other's name. We happen to. We've all been practicing together for a while. So it comes to us, this tradition of retreat comes to us through millennia of people doing the very same thing. And if we're going to carry Dharma forward, this treasure of Dharma forward into the modern world, if we're to tread this mountain path that helps us step by step by step by step step out of our suffering minds and hearts as the only possibility. And step out of all of the mistaken notions that give us so much trouble, the brambles of our heart and mind. If we're going to open to all the goodness that emerges when we're free to respond to this ever-changing bramble patch conditions with wisdom and creativity and a warm heart, if we're going to really see clearly this precious touchstone and be able to touch as needed, we need to be willing to experience Sesshin. We develop a capacity for really tolerating a lot of discomfort, physical and psychic discomfort, which doesn't sound like, oh goody, let's go to Sesshin. But once we have learned how to kind of take that in stride, then we no longer live in fear of it anywhere we encounter it. It's not the dominant total story, because there's always so much going on, so much more than what's right at the surface. So this image of one bright pearl, it's grown. I first came across this many years ago, and this image has gained for me so much dimension, almost tactily or viscerally, proprioceptively. And that's truly what comes forth in Dharma practice in relation to our own minds and hearts. It certainly is a profound blessing when we're old to have had a life of practice, even though, one little week at a time, one little retreat at a time, one practice seems to be like nothing. Our ability to really enjoy the difficult, really enjoy this time of life that's so difficult, and not think that the difficulties are the only thing. There's so many other things that are just incredibly wonderful. Aiken Roshi used to say that Zen is not for anybody under 40. Because before then, there's so much energy, play, possibility, fantasy, and developing your appreciation for your place in the world and the work of the world. It's very important to fully have permission to engage everything that catches our interest earlier in life. But by the time you get to the end edge of it, a lot has been decided. So in a certain way, it's simpler. So it's just wonderful to have a sangha that spans the age groups, because we all offer so much to each other from just how old we are and the energy we have and our perspectives. The anxieties you have when you're old are very different from the anxieties you have when you're young. But this self runs through it all, this stream of the self, this stream of mind chatter and narration and evaluation. So in Sesshin, we learn to handle all of the challenges. Sesshin and our lives are one. Sesshin shows us how to handle difficulties in our ordinary life. And ordinary life, in some way, is a much more difficult Sesshin than a Sesshin such as this. Where else do people serve you tea and cookie in the afternoon, after your nap or your walk? Where else are you served these delicious meals? So Sesshin can feel really luxurious. That's one possibility. So consider this. You've been coming to this Sesshin since the day you were born. So here we are. We're practicing in a way that is kind and persistent. We are also practicing for the Sangha and helping each other by maintaining noble silence, by maintaining the forms, in Ryoki, bowing, and entering and leaving the Zendo. And your wholeheartedness in all of this affects the atmosphere of the Zen Center in a way that supports calm and encouraging practice for everyone, not only during Sesshin, but long after. It's amazing. We get used to it because it develops day by day by day, but when after a Sesshin, people come into the Zendo and they say, wow, I can really feel this. That's the formless realm. We are enriching and refining, and it has an effect. So we're practicing for everyone, and we're also during Sesshin embodying the vow to maintain the Dharma jewel for future generations. So we are receiving, in this day of giving, the ancestors are giving us their support, their inspiration, their wonderful sutras. We're living into them, and we're planting the seeds for those who come after us to have access as well. What else survives after us but what we do? Our deeds are our closest companions. We are the beneficiary of our deeds, and all who come after us benefit from our practice, from the fact that there have been people in this very crazy world who practice sanity, who practice wholeheartedness, who practice generosity and selflessness. So this is a precious endowment that we are investing in. We are practicing for the perpetual life of the Dharma, and to discover our capacity to come into our fullness. And to shine the light into the dark realms of this current epoch. So how do we do this? And there's no better way. There's no better way found in the over 2 millennium that humans have walked this path to develop concentration, to develop the discipline and the endurance, to really awaken to what's available to us as conscious and sentient human beings. And to discover our full humanity, our kindness, wisdom, equanimity, generosity, that flows unencumbered, and maybe even we don't notice it when we have deeply been practicing. So why live with unremitting restlessness and suffering when we can recover the refuge of true open awareness? I think of that as that comes to my mind when I'm sitting on my cushion and I'm kind of going la 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 la, I'm drifting around, and then realizing, wait a minute, do not waste time by night or day. Because the experience of being very fully present is like nothing else. It's like nothing else. It's very nourishing. So it's this awakening. This is what we awaken within into about, that's pointed to in this fascicle that we're exploring during this Rohatsu Sesshin. Dogen's one bright pearl. So we sometimes approach Sesshin as a feat of physical and psychic endurance. Does that sound familiar? All we can do is chuckle, huh? Oh no. So let's not do it that way in this Sesshin. I've been encouraging everybody to relax. To relax and know that concentration builds naturally. It's a natural quality that comes about through continually returning to the present moment. It's that simple. And like anything else that we pay attention to, we get more interested in it. It holds more when we get really interested. So this isn't, we always say concentrate, focus, da-da-da. I much prefer the word getting really interested in something, because then I have no problem concentrating. And really getting to know, becoming familiar, and then becoming intimate. So this is not a practice about tensing into something to accomplish something. You don't have to go anywhere else to practice just being as you are. Suzuki Roshi always says, as is, be as is. Dogen Zenji describes easy and perfect practice. Notice he's using the word perfect. Isn't that interesting? Easy and perfect. Hard and perfect. Feels really different to say easy and perfect. Isn't that a phrase in the 12, in the AA? Take it easy. Easy does it? I don't know. Anyway. So, let's talk now about your expectations. How specific or vague were your expectations for Sesshin? And if you've done a number of Sesshin, you know that you just should let them go. Let them go. Instead, that question, what is to be discovered? Oh, I've done 100 Sesshin. I know the whole thing. Well, here you are. What could be discovered that you haven't noticed before? Is there room for the unexpected? Or are you so filled with all of the ideas about how hard this is and how you can never understand what this is all about, any fixed idea? Could you just let it go and be an innocent in the woods of Zazen, wandering innocent and naked? Remember that the discipline that's needed at a Sesshin isn't willfulness and rebellion, or trying to stamp out, squash yourself into some vague better self, or the fantasy of some kind of enormous enlightenment experience. Do you know that the word enlightenment, some of you may know this, was never used by the Buddha, and never used until the 1930s in this Western European version of Buddhism, enlightenment. And I just want to say what my friend Choke always said, somebody asked her if she was enlightened, and she said, well, I do feel lighter. One bright pearl. So be easy and perfect. Come back again and again to just this moment, and just this body, just this earth, this air, the sounds, and sights, and tastes, and touch. What is touching your skin right now? What is the quality of that touch? And just keeping your eyes and ears open, keeping your heart open. Gently, time after time, becoming aware when you've drifted into following, getting caught in mental chatter. Chatter that separates from your actual condition in this moment. But even this mental chatter is part of this moment. So you win either way. Nothing is excluded in one bright pearl. We're practicing being a human being right where we are, engaged in whatever is unfolding right now. And we're not trying to make anything different happen. So we just have to somehow look into, be willing to be simple in all of our complexity. Because we are complex. That's pretty interesting too. We begin Sesshin by cultivating the spirit of a very loving and patient parent, which some of us may never have actually experienced. But right now, come back. Right here, my love. Come here. Come back to this moment, my darling. That sounds a little corny, but we all deserve to have a voice that considers us darling and lovable and loved and fine and just so welcome to be right here. And this kind of thing can help us establish the energy of Sesshin as one of kindness and persistence and inclusion. And if we approach Zazen with a gaining idea, we miss the point. In this fascicle, tells the story of Zhuansha, a fisherman. He was a fisherman who enjoyed the solitary time he spent in his boat on the lakes and rivers, who loved boating and fishing on the river. Fishing is one kind of zazen. One day a golden-scaled fish came to him without his seeking it. And suddenly he had the urge to leave the dusty world. The fish landed itself without being fished. What's really interesting about that is Zhuansha was already leading a relaxed and peaceful life, without worrying about the results of his efforts. And yet he chose to leave the dusty world after something unexpected landed in his boat. So this is the way we'll be working with this vesicle in our Sesshin. The story begins with a golden fish leaping into his boat. And a lot of Dharma literature has almost a magical feel to it. The ancient images, a golden fish. And as we come into our modern world, we don't so much hear images like that. It's more ordinary and stark and difficult and precarious. And we may think because of that there's no way we can identify with a teaching like a golden fish landing in our boat. But all of you here have already landed a golden fish. You've already done that. You already see your own life reflected in the teachings. You see, even in something that you don't necessarily understand, you recognize something really important. So already you are awake. We all have our own version of the golden fish. Zhuangzi was relaxed and peaceful and enjoying his life on the river. So it would take a golden fish to rouse him to leave to leave the dusty world. It was required. But for many of us here, that fish wasn't so much golden as it was stinking. It was stinking, smelly. Instead, we may have difficulties that function like Zhuangzi's golden fish. Whatever it takes to rouse us to practice is enough. We each have our own specific karmic forces that propel us, that keep us coming back to this very strange, odd, unusual practice. And these forces we call the way-seeking mind. So how intimate are you with your way-seeking mind? This practice really is a practice of intimacy, becoming more and more intimate and recognizing the things that get in the way. And during the first day of Sesshin, we recommit to be wholehearted to the call of our way-seeking mind, to respond to the call. The schedule and each other helps us undertake a steady pace and turn back to each moment. And as we do, we take our habit self in hand. That's really hard. We're all creatures of habit. Habits are wonderful. They're so useful. Maybe every animal has habits. Every animal does have habits. Plants have habits. The clouds have habits. One bright pearl, operating inclusively. So we're distracted. Okay. Notice the thoughts. Notice the judgments. Notice wishing to be somewhere else or someone else. Get me out of here. I'm jumping out of my skin. When we were at the yoga center years ago, some people came in, they were there for the first time, and they just absolutely freaked out after 5 minutes and ran yelling out the door, "Get me out of here." And we all chuckled because they were just saying what we all felt. It goes with the territory for at times. And at other times it's, oh, what a relief. What a relief. This feels real. So, further along in the story, and I don't know if you've all gotten to it in your copying. Did everybody get through all the copying today? No? Yes? The question that Zhuangzi asks himself when he stubs his toe hits the rock and begins to bleed. He says, if my body doesn't exist, then where does this pain come from? Now that's something that we all confront immediately with Buddhism and Zen, because it says there is no self. What? Then where does this toe come from? So we're looking into the same question. Anytime we get snared in our own type of suffering, our own type of stubbing, and maybe it's physical, that can be hard to cope with, but not nearly as hard as psychic pain. Not nearly. Restlessness, doubt, worry, sadness, those are mild. Deep psychic pain, there's nothing but more painful because of the loneliness that marks psychic pain. Physical pain, there's always a nurse who can help you, or a friend, or, right? Psychic pain, nobody's there with you. This profound sense of being separate from life, very painful. So we're given the answer to this question. If the self doesn't exist, then where does this pain come from? We're given that answer right in the title to this fascicle, One Bright Pearl. But what exactly is, what is it? Well, it's simple, and it's not so simple. And if you try to understand, you won't be able to. And if you give up understanding, you won't be able to. Ah, Zen. We confront here the same paradox that Chuang-Tzu expresses when he says, Bodhidharma didn't come to China, Huike didn't go to India. Bodhidharma didn't come to China, well, Bodhidharma did come to China. So, according to conventional thinking, these statements are absurd and untrue. And that's the way so much of Zen stuff can seem. So not understanding what you're doing at Sesshin is best. Just be here. One bright pearl. Let yourself just not know what you're doing here. Forget about knowing anything. Be here in the Sangha. Support the Sangha. Experience the support of the Sangha. The support of the environment, of the schedule, of the natural and human-made environment, and relax. And rest the thinking mind, the one that needs to know. If this self doesn't exist, then where does the pain come from? So he stubs his toe and realizes something. Oh, ow, shit. He was leaving to further his study. He was on a path down the mountain, on his way somewhere else, where he could find something more. And suddenly, his Dharma eye opens, and he puts down his bag and returns to see his master, who says, well, what's up? You're back. And Chuang-Tzu says this very puzzling statement, no one can be fooled. You know, I might have said, yeah, I'm back. I just had this experience. Let me tell you about it. Well, I was walking down, blah, 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 blah. No one can be fooled. So here we have Chuang-Tzu, an uneducated fisherman. He never read a Buddhist sutra in his life, and he just dedicated himself to practice. And that's actually one thing that Maizumi always told that generation of his students is, it's not necessary to read, just practice. That's what I heard when I started. Don't read. There wasn't that much to read at that point, too. He just dedicated himself to practice, and then what was his realization? No one can be fooled. Well, who is fooled? Who here is fooled? Who is it that cannot be fooled? What part of you cannot be fooled? What are you falling for? What are you fooled about? What aspect of your mind and your heart gets in the way of the way? What aspect of your mind and heart do you trust? That really responds to the wholeness in the universe. So this might be the golden fish, huh? Who brought you to Sesshin. Maybe it was the one who thought they were suffering, struggling, the one who felt less than, and the one who felt discouraged and unable to get it, that you were missing something. But you come with an identity. And what qualities does your identity rest upon? Often you recognize the self and think it's a problem. But maybe this sense of longing for enlightenment, or there's something wrong, or there's something missing, that brings you to practice is the very golden fish leaping into your bowl, into your boat, into your bowl too, into your shoes, into your toothbrush. It's all the golden fish. Who knows? So, we have this fascicle, and we don't even use that word except for Dogen. It's a good word, fascicle. And it says, dive in here, relax, and take a look. So as you're working with it, as you're copying, and all the subsequent assignments with that, don't worry about getting something right. You just follow your interest. Follow the words that seem to be like, okay, what do I mean there? What do I know about that? I like that image. I don't like that image. You know? Just be real. You're just writing with yourself. You can be real with yourself. And just follow this as something that might lead you to make a discovery about that you didn't even know was to be made. And meanwhile, sit wholeheartedly, steadily. Remember to encourage, 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 encourage.